Hi everyone, this is Abhishek from Rocket. So in this video today we'll talk about APIs. Now Rocket is basically creates APIs for you. So you define your data structure, you define the particular operations that you need, and Rocket automatically creates APIs for you. So for example, in this case, we already have a database called TestDB, and inside this database, we already have a table called users. And inside this table we have three attributes: ID, name, and gender. So for this ID attribute, the data type is string, and if you look, it's a unique field, and it is also indexable, and it is also editable and deletable. That basically means for this particular attribute, Rocket will first create an indexable API. That means through this API, if you pass the ID, this will return the entire data of the user. Rocket will use this as a key to edit and delete data. That means Rocket will create an API where you can pass the ID of the user, and either Rocket will delete the API or edit the API based on what API you are calling. Similarly, for the name attribute, the data type is also string. But in this case, if you see, sortable and searchable is true. That means for searchable, Rocket will automatically create a searchable API where you can pass a query, which will be the name or a part of the name, and Rocket will basically perform a search operation and return all the matches for you. Rocket will also add a sortable optional parameter, query parameter to all the get APIs. So for all the get APIs, you can actually pass a optional sortable parameter. If you pass it, then Rocket will sort your results. And finally, for the gender attribute, the data type is enum, and these are the possible options. So for this, if you look, equal equals true, that means Rocket will create an query parameter called equal, and through that query parameter you can pass a particular a gender basically, and then it will automatically apply a filter. Again, this is a query parameter and this is an optional. Check the documentation on understanding attributes for a more detailed overview of all these operations and which one is optional, which one is not, how these things work. So now these are the three attributes that we have, and that's the only table that we have. So if I go to the API section, you can see Rocket automatically created a bunch of APIs for us. Okay. Another thing that you will see is for each of these APIs, there is already a predefined title and description. So Rocket, based on what that API is, it tries its best to create a title and description for you. You can always edit this if you don't like it, and this title and description is used for the in the Swagger documentation. So Rocket automatically creates OpenAPI documentation for you. So these title and description are used there. So if you look at this listing of the APIs, so first you can see one source column. Here you can see a bunch of these are auth, and then a bunch of these are attribute. So these auth ones are actually APIs for Rocket auth. So you can see there are login APIs, there are new verification APIs, there are update user API, reset password. So all these are APIs are for Rocket auth. You have all the description as well. You can see the API, you can see the methods. And then you have some attribute, which are the APIs that Rocket created on the basis of the table that I just displayed. I just demonstrated just a moment ago. So for example, you can see it created a post API. So this is for adding new data into the table. There's a get all method, get all API, so get all the data. It also had pagination, by the way. This is the index. So I was talking about that I made the ID attribute indexable, so it created this API. You have the edit API, you have the delete API as well, because the ID attribute was marked as editable and deletable. And finally, you have a search API as well, because the name attribute was marked as searchable. So based on these, it created all these APIs. So now let's say you wanted to you didn't like this title or description, you wanted to change it. So for example, I wanted to change it for this search. So there's this button. I can just go and click on this. When I click on this, it opens a basic form with two fields, and these two fields are already pre-filled. So let's say I just click I just say updated. Okay, so okay, so the maximum length is 25 currently. So let's just say updated title, let's just say, and I click on create. So now you can see it updated the title. Similarly, I can go back and I can change this as well. If I go back, see, it changed the description as well. So that's how you can change the existing, title and description if you don't like what Rocket created. Now let's say you want to open the documentation. So Rocket supports three API documentation: Swagger, Redoc, and Scalar. Along with that, it also provides a OpenAPI schema URL. So in case you have your own some other tools, or if you use some other sort of like maybe some proprietary tools or something like that, you can always get the OpenAPI schema directly through this URL. For this, I'll just click on Swagger. This opens the Swagger documentation in a new tab. So you can see the name of the database, you can see the description of the database, you can see two schemas, HTTPS and HTTP. The first section is the public authentication. So this is the authentication APIs for Rocket Auth. I'm not going to go into these. Then you have table users. Remember, the name of that table was users. So table users is basically all the API for the table users. So you can see all this API. So for example, if I open the insert new content, so you can see there's ID, name, gender. These are the three possible attributes. So through this, you can actually add new data. So for example, if I go make sure it's in HTTPS, I just type, let's say one name is something. And remember, the gender was an enum, so I have to provide the only supported values. So for this, I'll just pick female, and I click on execute. It will take some time, and then as you can see, it automatically added this data. So now let's say I go to this retrieve all data. So I click on try. So first it will ask me for the number, the limit. So I'll just click 10. And then 1, which is the name, number of the page. Then it's asking for sort by name. So remember, the name field was marked as sortable. So by default, it automatically selects ascending. You can click on descending as well. I'll just leave it as ascending and click on execute. Once I do that, okay, it's actually returning multiple names because in the previous video we used synthetic data generator to create data. So yeah, you can see that it's there are 51 docs, so 51 total items, and it returned 10 of these. You can change the limit. So for example, if I change the limit to say 30, now click on this. So now it's going to return 30 items. Now let me just copy this and let's go to okay, so this was the searchable search API. Remember, we changed the title and the description. That's why it just says updated. So here I just go and click on 10 and page in 1, and in the query I'll just type this, which is the part of the name of one particular user. So I click on execute. Yeah, it returned 1. So for this particular user, the name starts with this Darren, so that's why it returned this. So yeah, I think that's all about the APIs in Rocket. Thanks for watching.